The sound wasn't loud, just a dry, crisp rip that cut through the humid, recycled air of Terminal C like a gunshot. 300 people at Gate C14 stopped breathing at once. It wasn't just the sound of paper tearing, it was the sound of a career ending, though the man holding the two halves of the dark blue passport didn't know it yet. He stood there, sneering, dangling the ruined document in front of the young woman in the grey hoodie, convinced he had just caught a criminal. He had no idea that the woman standing silently before him wasn't just a passenger. She was the one woman in the entire airport with the power to ground his airline, strip his clearance, and dismantle his life. And she was already recording. The fluorescent lights of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport hummed with a headache-inducing frequency that Greg Patterson had stopped noticing 15 years ago. To anyone else, Gate C14 was just a waiting area, a purgatory of grey carpet, overpriced pretzels, and anxious travelers fighting over charging ports. But to Greg, it was a kingdom, and he was the king. Greg was 52, with a hairline that had retreated in surrender, and a waistline that pushed the limits of his navy blue Summit Airways uniform. He wore his silver lead agent name tag like a sheriff's badge. He didn't just check boarding passes, he adjudicated worthiness. He lived for the tiny rush of power that came from telling a businessman his carry-on was an inch too wide, or making a family of 5 step out of line because their boarding group hadn't been called yet. "Please step back. I said step back," Greg barked into the microphone, his voice distorting over the PA system. He didn't look up from his podium computer. Group 1 is boarding. If you are in Group 2, 3, or, God forbid, basic economy, do not breathe in the direction of the jet bridge. Back. A collective groan rippled through the crowd. Flight SA492 to Washington, D.C. was already delayed by 40 minutes due to a crew scheduling error, which was airline speak for, "We messed up." The passengers were tired, hungry, and irritable. But Greg was energized. Chaos was his ladder. "Excuse me, Greg." It was Sarah, the junior agent working the scanner next to him. She was 22, new, and terrified of him. "The pilot, Captain O'Connell, just radioed. He wants to know if we can expedite pre-boarding. We're losing our departure slot." Greg scoffed, loud enough for the first row of passengers to hear. "Captain O'Connell flies the plane, Sarah. I run the ground. Tell him I'll board them when I'm good and ready. I'm doing a final manifest audit." He wasn't doing a manifest audit. He was scrolling through the passenger list, looking for anomalies. Greg prided himself on being the first line of defense. In his mind, he was practically TSA, Border Patrol, and the FBI rolled into one. He profiled everyone. The nervous student? Probably smuggling drugs. The sweating man in the suit? Warrant out for his arrest. He had never actually caught anyone, but he felt the potential for capture every shift. Then, he saw her. She was standing near the window, away from the huddled masses of Group 1. She was a black woman, likely in her late 20s, wearing a nondescript, oversized grey university hoodie, black leggings, and worn-out sneakers. She had a pair of Beats headphones around her neck and was typing something into her phone with terrifying speed. Greg narrowed his eyes. She looked too comfortable, too out of place. He looked down at his screen. The manifest showed one remaining unboarded passenger for seat 3A. First class. The name on the list was Dr. N. Sterling. Greg looked back at the girl in the hoodie, then back at the screen. Seat 3A. Full fare first class. "No way," Greg muttered to himself, a sour smirk twisting his lips. He watched her adjust her backpack, a battered leather thing that looked like it had been dragged through a war zone. It didn't match the Toomey and Rimowa rollers of the usual first-class clientele. "Sarah," Greg said, his voice low. "Keep scanning the cattle. I'm going to handle a security discrepancy." "A what?" Sarah asked, distracted by an angry mother trying to gate-check a stroller. "Just do your job," Greg snapped. He stepped out from behind the sanctuary of the podium, smoothing his vest. He walked with a heavy, purposeful gait, parting the sea of passengers like a miserable Moses. He approached the woman. She didn't look up. She was still typing, her thumbs a blur. "Excuse me," Greg said, loud enough to draw the attention of the surrounding passengers. The woman paused. She locked her phone and slipped it into her pocket in one fluid motion. When she looked up, her eyes were calm, unsettlingly calm. They were dark, intelligent eyes that didn't flinch at his aggression. "Yes," she said. Her voice was soft, melodic, but carried a weight that Greg immediately disliked. "This is the boarding area for flight SA-492, Greg said, crossing his arms. "Economy boarding hasn't started yet. You're blocking the flow of traffic for our premium passengers. You need to wait by the food court." The woman tilted her head slightly. "I'm aware of the flight number. I'm waiting for boarding to begin." "I just called Group 1, Greg said, stepping into her personal space. "That's first class and Diamond Medallion members. You are clearly not in Group 1. He let his eyes rake over her hoodie and leggings with obvious disdain. Around them, the crowd went quiet. People sensing a conflict began to turn their heads. A few phones came out. "I am in Group 1, the woman said simply. She reached into her pocket. "Don't reach!" Greg barked, holding up a hand. "Keep your hands where I can see them." The woman stopped, her hand hovering near her pocket. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by that unnerving calm. "I am reaching for my boarding pass, sir." "Let me see it," Greg demanded. She slowly pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. She held it up. The QR code was there, bright and clear. Above it, in bold letters, "Priority access. Group 1, Seat 3A. Greg stared at the screen. He felt a flush of heat creep up his neck. He had expected her to be in Group 9. He had expected to humiliate her and send her away. Being wrong was not part of the plan. He couldn't be wrong. Not in front of his kingdom. "Phones can be faked," Greg said, snatching the phone from her hand before she could protest. He pretended to scan it with his eyes, looking for a flaw. "Screenshots, Photoshop. People do it all the time to sneak into first class." "That is the live app," the woman said, her voice dropping a specific octave that signaled a warning. "Give me back my phone." "I need to verify your identity," Greg said, clutching the phone like contraband. "I need a physical ID. Now." The woman took a slow breath. "My name is Dr. Sterling. I am booked on this flight. You are holding my property. ID. Now, or I call the police." The woman stared at him for 3 long seconds. Then, she reached into her backpack and pulled out a passport. It wasn't a standard US blue book. It was dark, almost black, and looked slightly thicker than usual. She handed it to him. Greg took it. He felt the texture of the cover. It felt different. He opened it. The photo was her, unsmiling, professional, hair pulled back. The name read Nia Sterling. But Greg wasn't looking at the security features. He was looking for a way to be right. He flipped the pages aggressively. "This looks flimsy," he lied, his voice raising so the onlookers could hear. "The stitching is off. The laminate is peeling." "It is a government-issued diplomatic passport," Nia said. "Handle it with care." "Diplomatic?" Greg laughed, a harsh, barking sound. He looked at the girl in the hoodie. "You? A diplomat? What are you? The ambassador of hip-hop?" A few people in the crowd chuckled nervously. Most were silent, sensing the racial undertone that Greg had just vomited out into the open. "I am a federal employee," Naya said, her voice turning to ice. "And you are crossing a line, Agent." She glanced at his name tag. "Patterson, I suggest you board me immediately." "You don't give me orders," Greg shouted. The adrenaline was hitting him now. He felt like the hero protecting the plane from a fraud. "This passport is a fake. I've seen thousands of these. You bought this downtown. You think you can waltz onto my plane, steal a first-class seat, and lie to a federal flight officer?" "I am not lying," Naya said. "Scan it." "I don't need to scan it to know garbage when I see it," Greg yelled. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. Sarah, the junior agent, had stopped boarding. Captain O'Connell had poked his head out of the jet bridge door, frowning. Greg felt the eyes on him. He had to finish this. He had to prove he was the authority. "You know what we do with fake IDs?" Greg sneered. He held the passport up with both hands. "No," Naya said. It was a command, sharp and sudden. "Do not. Watch me." Greg gripped the booklet. He found the center page, the one with the biometric chip and the photo data page. He gritted his teeth. He twisted his wrists. "Reap!" The sound was sickening. The reinforced paper fought back for a split second before giving way. Greg tore the passport completely in half. The bottom half, with the machine-readable zone, fluttered to the dirty grey carpet. Silence. Absolute, terrified silence. Greg smirked, breathing heavily, holding the top half like a trophy. "Boarding denied. Now get out of my terminal before I have you arrested for forgery." Nia Sterling didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't attack him. She looked down at the severed half of her passport on the floor. Then she looked up at Greg. And for the first time, she smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a wolf that had just watched a rabbit walk voluntarily into a bear trap. "Sarah," Naya said, looking past Greg to the terrified junior agent, "please call the airport police and tell them to bring the FAA station manager and—" She checked her watch. "Tell Captain O'Connell to shut down the engines. This plane is now a crime scene." Greg laughed. It was a nervous laugh this time, though he wouldn't admit it. "Crime scene? You're delusional. Sarah, don't call anyone. Call security to escort this woman out." Sarah stood frozen behind the podium, her hand hovering over the phone. She looked from Greg's red, sweaty face to the woman who was standing with a terrifyingly regal posture despite her casual clothes. Sarah had worked at the airport for 6 months, but she knew one rule. Crazies screamed. Liars panicked. This woman was doing neither. "Sarah," the woman said again. Her voice was calm, but it projected clearly to the back of the line. "My name is Dr. Nia Sterling. I am a senior special agent and auditor for the Federal Aviation Administration, Office of Internal Security. Your colleague has just destroyed federal property and interfered with a federal investigation. Make the call." The color drained from Greg's face so fast it looked like a gravity failure. "Bull," Greg stammered, though the word lacked his usual punch. "You're lying. Look at you. You're wearing leggings." "I'm wearing travel clothes because I am traveling," Naya said, her tone clinical. She reached into her backpack again. Greg flinched, stepping back. "She's got a weapon," Greg shrieked, looking for an ally in the crowd. "Someone grab her!" Nobody moved. The passengers were glued to the spot. A man in a business suit near the front, who had been recording on his iPhone since the shouting started, spoke up. "She's just reaching into her bag, man. Chill out." Nia pulled out a leather wallet. She flipped it open. It wasn't a credit card holder. It was a badge, a heavy gold shield with the eagle of the United States and the Department of Transportation seal. Beside it was a laminated ID card with the same photo as the passport Greg had just destroyed. Federal Aviation Administration, Special Agent, Inspector General Clearance. Top secret. She held it up, turning it slowly so the passengers, and specifically Greg, could see the light glint off the metal. "Greg Patterson," Naya said, reading his name tag again, as if memorizing it for an indictment. "You have just committed a felony under Title 18, Section 1519 of the United States Code. Destruction of records in a federal investigation. You also violated 18 U.S. Code, Section 111, impeding a federal officer." Greg's mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. The top half of the passport slipped from his sweaty fingers and landed on the carpet next to its twin. I didn't know," Greg whispered. The bravado was evaporating, leaving behind the stark, cold reality of his mistake. "It looked fake. You don't look like an inspector." "What does an inspector look like, Greg?" Naya asked. She took a step forward. "Do they look like you? White? Male? Overweight? Loud?" "I was just following protocol." Greg tried to pivot, his voice raising in a desperate attempt to regain control. "We have strict rules about ID verification. You refuse to cooperate." "I handed you my ID," Nia corrected him. "And you destroyed it. And by the way, I wasn't just flying to DC for a meeting. I was flying 3A because I am conducting an unscheduled in-flight audit of Summit Airways regarding the recent reports of cabin crew mistreatment and gate agent misconduct at DFW. Congratulations, Greg. You just became the star of my report." The murmur in the crowd turned into a roar of whispers. "The FAA? An auditor? He ripped her passport." "Sarah!" Greg yelled, spinning around to the junior agent. "Tell them she was belligerent. You saw it. She was threatening me." Sarah looked at Greg. She looked at the badge in Naya's hand. She looked at the hundreds of witnesses. I saw you rip her passport, Greg," Sarah said quietly. "She didn't do anything." "You traitor!" Greg lunged toward the podium. "Hey!" The voice boomed from the jet bridge door. Captain James O'Connell, a man with 4 stripes on his shoulders and 0 patience for delay, stepped fully into the terminal. He was tall, grey-haired, and looked like he chewed gravel for breakfast. "What in the hell is going on here?" O'Connell demanded. "We are 45 minutes past pushback. Why is my loading bridge empty?" "Captain!" Greg pointed a shaking finger at Naya. "This passenger is refusing to leave the secure area. She produced a fake ID and is impersonating a federal officer." Captain O'Connell looked at Naya. He squinted. Then his eyes widened. He walked right past Greg. He walked up to Nia and extended a hand. "Dr. Sterling," the captain said, his voice dropping to a respectful, almost fearful tone. I didn't know you were on my manifest today. I saw the briefing about a potential audit, but I thought it was next week." "Hello, Captain O'Connell," Naya said, shaking his hand firmly. "It seems your gate agent decided to start the audit early. He has destroyed my credentials and denied me boarding." O'Connell turned slowly to look at Greg. The look on the captain's face was not anger. It was pure disbelief. "You did what?" O'Connell asked. "It was fake, Cap," Greg pleaded, sweat now pouring down his temples. "Look at it. It ripped like paper." "Passports are made of paper, you idiot," O'Connell snapped. "And Dr. Sterling is the chief inspector for the Southwest region. She grounded the entire fleet of Blue Sky Air last year for maintenance log violations. Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Greg backed up until he hit the glass window of the terminal. He looked at the passport halves on the floor. He looked at the passengers, who were now openly filming him, phones held high like torches. He realized then that he couldn't talk his way out of this. He couldn't bully his way out. I need to talk to a union rep, Greg muttered. You're going to need a lawyer, Greg, Naya said calmly. She pointed to the far end of the concourse. 2 officers from the DFW Airport Police were jogging toward them, hands on their belts. Behind them strode a woman in a sharp blazer, Linda Holloway, the airport station manager for Summit Airways. The cavalry had arrived, but for Greg, it wasn't a rescue. It was the cleanup crew. "Officer!" Greg yelled, seeing the police. He decided to play his last, desperate card. The victim card. "Officer, help! This woman assaulted me. She's deranged." Nia didn't move. She just watched the officers approach. She knew something Greg didn't. She knew that in a post-9/11 world, airports have cameras. Everywhere, including 3 high-definition domes directly above Gate C14. "Showtime," she whispered to herself. Officer Miller and Officer Rodriguez of the DFW Airport Police Department were used to calls at Gate C14. Usually it was a drunk passenger refusing to wear a mask, or a family dispute over seating assignments that had turned physical. They walked with the tired, heavy gait of men who spent their days mediating the worst behaviors of the traveling public. But as they broke through the ring of spectators, Officer Miller sensed the atmosphere was wrong. Usually the crowd was loud, shouting over each other. Today, the crowd was dead silent. 300 pairs of eyes were fixed on one man, Greg Patterson. "All right, break it up, back up," Officer Miller commanded, pushing a few voyeurs back. He looked at the scene. He saw the pilot, Captain O'Connell, looking furious. He saw the young gate agent, Sarah, looking like she was about to vomit. He saw the black woman in the hoodie, standing perfectly still. And he saw Greg, red-faced and panting, pointing a finger at the woman. "Officer! Thank God!" Greg gasped, rushing toward Miller. "Take her into custody. She's dangerous. She assaulted me, and she's trying to board a federal aircraft with forged documents." Miller looked at Naya. She hadn't moved. She stood with her hands clearly visible, palms open, a gesture of non-aggression that Miller recognized immediately from training. "Ma'am?" Miller asked, keeping one hand near his belt, but not on his weapon. "Is this true?" "Officer Miller," Naya said, reading his name tag from 10 feet away. "I am Federal Agent Naya Sterling. My credentials are in my left hand. The remains of my passport, which Mr. Patterson destroyed in violation of federal law, are on the floor at your feet. I am not resisting. I am waiting for you to secure the scene." Miller looked down. Sure enough, the 2 halves of a dark blue diplomatic passport lay on the dirty carpet like a dead bird. "He ripped it?" Rodriguez asked, stepping up behind Miller. "A passport?" "He ripped it in half," Captain O'Connell interjected, his voice booming. "I witnessed the aftermath, and he is refusing to let a federal inspector board my aircraft." Linda Holloway, the station manager for Summit Airways, finally pushed through the police line. Linda was a sharp woman in her 40s who solved problems by burying them in vouchers and non-disclosure agreements. She took one look at Greg's manic face and knew this wasn't a voucher situation. "Greg," Linda said, her voice tight. "What is going on?" "Linda!" Greg looked relieved. "This woman, she's a fraud. She tried to use a fake passport. I confiscated it, like per the manual. It fell apart in my hands. Now she's claiming she's the FAA. Linda turned to Nia. She saw the hoodie. She saw the leggings. For a split second, Linda's corporate instincts kicked in, assess the customer, determine value. She saw a low-value economy look, but then she saw the badge in Naya's hand. Linda froze. She recognized the badge. Summit Airways had been briefed on a roving audit team 2 months ago. They were told to look out for suits. They weren't told to look out for young women in casual wear. "Dr. Sterling?" Linda asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm Linda Holloway, station manager. Can I see the badge closer, please?" You may, Naya said. She held it out. Linda leaned in. It was authentic. The holographic seal of the Department of Transportation shimmered in the fluorescent light. "Oh, God," Linda whispered. She spun around to Greg. "Greg, did you verify the biometric chip before you handled the document?" "The chip was fake," Greg insisted, though his eyes were darting around nervously. "The whole thing was flimsy. I did a tactile assessment." "A tactile assessment," Naya repeated, arching an eyebrow. "Is that what you call ripping a government document in half? Is that in the Summit Airways training manual, Linda?" "No," Linda said quickly. "Absolutely not." "He called it garbage," a voice from the crowd piped up. Everyone turned. It was the man in the business suit, the one who had been recording. He stepped forward, holding his phone up like a weapon of truth. His name was David, a tech consultant who flew 200,000 miles a year. He hated bullies. "I have it all on video," David said, addressing Officer Miller. Start to finish, she was polite. She showed her app. She handed him the passport. He mocked her, called her, what was it? The ambassador of hip-hop? A gasp went through the crowd again as the racism of the comment was re-aired. "He said that?" Linda looked at Greg with horror. "It was a joke," Greg sputtered. "She was being difficult. She was profiling me." "And then," David continued, ignoring Greg, "he ripped it, deliberately, with force. She didn't touch him. She didn't assault him. That man is lying. I have witnesses too," Greg shouted, pointing at Sarah. "Sarah, tell them, she lunged at me." Sarah, the 22-year-old junior agent, looked at her boss. She looked at the police. She looked at the camera David was pointing at her. She realized that her next words would define the rest of her life. "He's lying," Sarah said, her voice shaking but clear. Tears welled up in her eyes. "She didn't move, Greg. You got mad because she was in first class. You said, 'No way,' before you even talked to her." "You little..." Greg took a step toward Sarah. Officer Rodriguez stepped in, placing a heavy hand on Greg's chest. "That's enough, Mr. Patterson. Step back." "I'm the victim here," Greg screamed, the spittle flying from his mouth. "I protect this gate. I protect this plane. You're taking the word of a girl in a hoodie over a lead agent with 15 years of service?" "I'm taking the word of the evidence, sir," Officer Miller said. He reached down and picked up the passport halves with a gloved hand. He examined the tear. "This takes significant force, Greg. This wasn't an accident." "I want to press charges," Naya said calmly. The air left the room. "Dr. Sterling," Linda Holloway interjected, stepping between Naya and the police. "Let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can resolve this. Summit Airways is prepared to offer you significant compensation, a full refund, first-class vouchers for a year. Maybe we can upgrade you to... You want to upgrade me?" Nia laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Miss Holloway, I am already in Set 3A. Or I was, until your employee destroyed my travel documents. I cannot fly without them. Do you understand what that means?" "We can expedite a replacement," Linda tried. "No," Naya cut her off. "It means I am grounded in Dallas. It means my scheduled audit of the Washington maintenance facility is delayed. It means the federal government is incurring costs due to your employees' negligence and malice, and you want to offer me vouchers." Nia turned to Officer Miller. "I want to press charges for destruction of federal property and filing a false police report. He claimed I assaulted him. That is a lie, proven by video evidence and witness testimony. Arrest him." "Now hold on," Greg yelled. "You can't arrest me. I'm on duty. Who's going to board the plane?" "I will board the plane," Captain O'Connell said coldly, "or Sarah will. You are done, Greg." "Officer," Naya continued, "if you do not arrest him, I will make a call to the Inspector General's office and have a team of federal marshals here within the hour. and they will arrest everyone who obstructed this process, including you." Officer Miller knew a threat when he heard one, but he also knew the law. He looked at Greg. He looked at the ripped passport in his evidence bag. "Greg Patterson," Miller said, reaching for his handcuffs. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back." "What?" "No." Greg backed away. "Linda, do something." "Greg, stop," Linda said, rubbing her temples. "Just go with them. I'll call the union rep." "This is a mistake," Greg screamed as Rodriguez spun him around and clicked the cuffs onto his wrists. The sound of the ratcheting metal echoed in the silent terminal. "I'm a hero. I stopped a fraud. You'll all see. That passport is fake." "Read him his rights," Naya said. "And officer, please secure the video evidence from that gentleman." She pointed to David. "Already sending it to the cloud, ma'am," David said, giving Naya a nod of respect. "And to Twitter." As the police led a struggling, shouting Greg Patterson away from the gate, the crowd erupted into applause. It wasn't polite applause. It was the vindictive, satisfied cheering of people who had been bullied by petty tyrants for too long and finally watched the dragon get slain. Naya didn't smile. She watched Greg disappear down the concourse. Then she turned to Linda Holloway. "Now, Miss Holloway," Nia said, checking her watch. "We have a problem. I have no passport, and I have a job to do. I need a secure room, a phone, and I need access to your personnel files on Mr. Patterson immediately." Linda swallowed hard. "Personnel files are confidential, Dr. Sterling." "Not when the subject is under criminal investigation for interfering with federal aviation safety," Naya countered. "Would you like me to call the Secretary of Transportation? I believe he's having lunch, but he usually takes my calls." Linda paled. "Follow me to the Red Carpet Club private conference room. I'll get the files." The Red Carpet Club was an oasis of beige leather and quiet privilege, a stark contrast to the chaotic battlefield of Gate C-14. Linda Holloway ushered Naya into the executive suite, a glass-walled conference room usually reserved for VIPs who needed to fire people over Zoom before their flight. Nia sat at the head of the mahogany table. She placed her badge in the center. She didn't look like a girl in a hoodie anymore. She looked like a judge. Linda sat opposite her, frantically typing on her iPad. "Dr. Sterling, I just want to say on behalf of Summit Airways." "Save the PR statement, Linda," Naya said, pulling a laptop out of her battered leather backpack. She opened it and connected to a secure hotspot. "This isn't a customer service issue anymore. It's a systemic failure." "How long has Greg Patterson worked for you?" 15 years, Linda said. He's old school." "Old school," Naya repeated, typing the name into her database. "Is that what we call it? I'm looking at his file now. I have access to the shared TSA incident reports. Did you know he has 24 complaints against him in the last 3 years alone?" Linda flinched. We were aware of some friction. Greg can be abrasive, but he's efficient. He turns planes around faster than anyone. Efficiency at the cost of civil rights is not efficiency, Linda. It's liability, Naya said. She spun the laptop around. "Look at this. 6 months ago, a complaint from a Nigerian businessman. Greg detained him for suspicious documents. Turned out to be a valid visa. The man missed his father's funeral. Greg was given a warning." "I remember that," Linda whispered. 3 months ago, Naya continued. A mother with a mixed-race child. Greg demanded a birth certificate to prove the child was hers, despite them having matching last names and passports. He called it anti-trafficking vigilance. The mother called it harassment. Another warning. "He has a clean safety record," Linda argued weakly. "No." Naya slammed her hand on the table, making Linda jump. He has a lucky record. He harasses the people who can't fight back, the people who are scared of missing their flight, the people who don't speak English well. He bullies them, gets his power trip, and you let him stay because he gets the plane out on time." Nia leaned forward. "But today, he picked the wrong passenger. He picked someone who knows the rules better than he does. And because you didn't fire him 6 months ago, you are now facing a federal inquiry into your hiring and retention practices." Linda's phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again. Then it started vibrating continuously like an angry hornet. "You might want to answer that," Nia said. Linda looked at the screen. It was the Vice President of Operations for Summit Airways. "Hello?" Linda answered, her voice trembling. "Linda!" The voice on the other end was loud enough for Nia to hear. "What is happening at DFW? I have CNN on the line. I have trending on Twitter. Mr. Greg the gate agent. There is a video with 2 million views of our lead agent ripping up a black woman's passport and screaming about the ambassador of hip-hop. Tell me this is a deep fake." It's real, sir," Linda said, closing her eyes. "And who is the passenger?" the VP demanded. "Please tell me it's nobody. Please tell me it's an influencer we can pay off." "It's Dr. Nia Sterling, sir," Linda said, looking at Nia. "Senior Inspector for the FAA. She was here for a surprise audit." Silence. A long, heavy silence on the line. "He ripped up the passport of the FAA inspector. Who was there to audit us?" "Yes, sir." "Fire him," the VP screamed. "Fire him retroactively, and give her whatever she wants. Does she want a plane? Give her a plane." Linda hung up. She looked at Nia. "He's fired. Effective immediately." "Good start," Nia said. "But not enough. I need you to print the full manifest of Flight SA-492. I need the names of every crew member who interacted with Greg today. And I need a secure line to the U.S. State Department to expedite a replacement passport, or I'm afraid I'll be living in your lounge for the next 48 hours. "I'll handle it," Linda said, standing up. As Linda rushed out, Nia turned back to her laptop. She logged into the FAA internal server. She opened a new case file. Subject: Summit Airways, DFW ground operations. Incident: destruction of federal credentials, discrimination, abuse of authority. Primary suspect: Gregory Patterson. She began to type her report, but her phone pinged. It was a text from her brother. Link: YouTube. Racist gate agent versus FAA agent. Instant karma. Nia clicked the link. The video David had taken was already viral. The angle was perfect. It showed Nia's calm, respectful demeanor. It showed Greg's sweating, sneering face. It captured the crisp, terrible sound of the passport ripping. And it captured the moment Nia dropped the hammer. "I am a federal employee." The comments were scrolling so fast they were a blur. Travel King. The way he crumbled when he saw the badge. OMG. Justice. This is why we record everything. That man needs jail time. Our Summit sucks. Cancel Summit Airways. If they employ guys like this, their planes are probably held together with duct tape. Nia closed the video. She didn't do this for the likes. She did it because the Greg Pattersons of the world thought they were the gatekeepers of society. They thought that because they wore a uniform, they could decide who belonged and who didn't. They thought a black woman in a hoodie couldn't possibly be their superior. Nia picked up her phone and dialed a number. "Inspector General's office," a voice answered. "This is Sterling. I need a scrub of the DFW airport police logs regarding Summit Airways for the last 5 years. And get the DOJ on the line. We might have a civil rights violation case here." "On it, Dr. Sterling. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Nia said, looking out of the window at the planes taxiing on the tarmac. "But Summit Airways is about to have a very bad day." Meanwhile, in a holding cell at the DFW airport police station, Greg Patterson was sitting on a metal bench, staring at the concrete floor. His belt and shoelaces had been taken. His Summit Airways badge lay in a plastic bin at the front desk. He was still convinced this was a misunderstanding. A setup. "I need my phone," Greg said to the officer outside the bars. "I need to call the union. They can't do this." "Your union rep already called," the officer said, not looking up from his paperwork. "And?" Greg asked, hope rising in his chest. "When is he coming?" "He's not," the officer said. "He said the union doesn't represent employees who commit felonies on camera. He said you're on your own, Greg." Greg sat back. For the first time, the reality of the situation began to crack the hard shell of his ego. He wasn't the king of Gate C-14 anymore. He was just a man who had made a catastrophic assumption. But Greg wasn't the type to learn a lesson. Not yet. As he sat there, his mind started to twist the narrative. "She set me up," he thought. "She came there looking like that on purpose. To trap me. It's entrapment." He stood up and gripped the bars. "This isn't over," he shouted to the empty hallway. "I'm going to sue her. I'm going to sue the airline. I know things. I know where the bodies are buried." The officer just turned up the volume on the radio. Back in the Red Carpet Club, Linda returned with a stack of papers and a look of defeat. "Dr. Sterling," she said, "the State Department is issuing an emergency diplomatic passport. It will be flown in from Houston by courier helicopter within 2 hours. Efficient, Naya noted. See what happens when you follow protocol. Also, Linda hesitated. Captain O'Connell is here. He wants to speak with you. Send him in. Captain O'Connell walked in. He looked tired. He had delayed his flight by 2 hours to deal with the paperwork. Dr. Sterling, O'Connell said, taking off his hat. I just wanted to apologize personally. Greg, he's been a thorn in our side for years. We tried to get him moved, but he knew how to play the system. I'm sorry you had to be the one to finally break him. Sometimes, Captain, you need a hammer to break a bad system, Naya said. But I have a question for you. Yes. Greg mentioned he knows things. When the police took him away, he was screaming about knowing where the bodies are buried. Is there anything I should know about Summit's operations at DFW before I dig deeper? O'Connell went stiff. He exchanged a look with Linda Halloway, a look that spoke volumes. Nia caught it. She leaned back, a shark smelling blood in the water. Sit down, Captain, Nia said softly. And you too, Linda. It seems this audit is about to expand significantly. Let's talk about ghost maintenance records. The drama at Gate C-14 was over, but the war for Summit Airways was just beginning, and Greg Patterson, from his jail cell, had just unwittingly handed Naya the key to the entire kingdom. The air in the executive suite of the Red Carpet Club had shifted. It was no longer the sterile, recycled oxygen of a corporate lounge. It was heavy with the static charge of impending disaster. Captain James O'Connell sat on the edge of the plush leather chair, his cap turning slowly in his hands. Linda Halloway, the station manager, looked as if she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Dr. Naya Sterling sat at the head of the table, her laptop open, casting a blue glow on her face. She wasn't typing anymore. She was waiting. Ghost maintenance, Naya said, the term hanging in the air like smoke. That's what Greg was alluding to, isn't it? When he said he knew where the bodies were buried. Captain O'Connell looked at Linda, then back at Nia. He was a pilot. He loved flying. He loved the sensation of lift, the physics of it. But he hated the business of it. The margins, the shareholders, the pressure. It's not authorized, O'Connell started, his voice gravelly. But DFW is a high-volume hub. The turnaround times are brutal, Dr. Sterling. We have 40 minutes to deplane, clean, cater, refuel, and run safety checks on a Boeing 737. If we miss a slot, it cascades. Delays, fines, missed connections. So you cut corners, Nia stated. We prioritize. Linda corrected, her voice defensive but weak. We focus on the critical items, the engines, the hydraulics. And the rest? Nia asked. The cargo door latches? The tire pressure sensors? The backup avionics checks? O'Connell sighed. Sometimes, if a sensor is glitchy, but we know the system is fine. The ground crew might sign it off without doing the full 20-minute diagnostic. They call it pencil whipping. Just signing the log to clear the red flag so the computer lets us push back. And Greg Patterson? Nia asked. What is a gate agent's role in maintenance fraud? Greg isn't just a gate agent, Linda admitted, staring at her hands. He's the lead ground operations coordinator for Terminal C. He controls the flow. If a mechanic says, I need 30 minutes to check the landing gear strut, Greg is the one screaming at them that they only have 10. He threatens them with write-ups for insubordination or inefficiency. He bullies the mechanics into signing off, just like he bullies the passengers into line. Nia felt a cold anger settle in her stomach. This was worse than racism. This was worse than a power trip. This was a man willing to risk 300 lives to protect his on-time departure metrics. He's the enforcer, Nia realized. He's the reason your DFW numbers look so good on paper, despite an aging fleet. He scares the crew into lying for him. He gets bonuses for on-time departures, O'Connell revealed quietly. Big ones. Nia closed her eyes for a second. The passport incident was just the tip of the iceberg. Greg Patterson wasn't protecting the plane from her. He was protecting a corrupt ecosystem where he was the kingpin. He ripped her passport because she represented the one thing that could destroy his kingdom: oversight. Okay, Nia said, opening her eyes. She picked up her phone. This audit just went from a level 2 spot check to a level 5 forensic investigation. Linda, you are going to freeze all maintenance logs for the last 24 months. If a single file is deleted, you will go to prison. Do you understand? Yes, Linda whispered. Captain, Nia turned to the pilot. Your flight is cancelled. I'm grounding this aircraft immediately for a full structural inspection, and I'm calling in the Go team. O'Connell nodded, looking strangely relieved. Thank you, Dr. Sterling. I've been worried about that cargo latch for weeks. Nia dialed a number on her secure phone. It rang once. Director of Safety, a voice answered. Director, this is Sterling in Dallas. I need the Go team, forensic mechanics, data auditors, and legal. I'm declaring an emergency ground stop for Summit Airways operations at DFW. On what grounds, Agent Sterling? Systemic falsification of maintenance records, intimidation of safety personnel, and destruction of federal credentials by lead ground staff. We have a rogue station. I'm launching the team now. ETA 4 hours. Good hunting, Nia. Nia hung up. She looked at the two terrified executives. You better call your lawyers. And Linda, get me a coffee. Black. It's going to be a long night. Meanwhile, in the sterile, echoing holding cell of the DFW Airport Police Precinct, Greg Patterson was pacing. The adrenaline of the confrontation had faded, replaced by a creeping, cold dread. He had been stripped of his uniform jacket. His tie was gone. He felt naked and small. He had used his one phone call to contact his brother-in-law, a personal injury lawyer named Mitch, who mostly handled slip-and-fall cases at grocery stores. Mitch, you gotta get me out of here, Greg hissed into the receiver earlier. They're talking about federal charges, felonies. Greg, I saw the video, Mitch had said, his voice sounding distant. Everyone has seen the video. It's on CNN, Greg. The passport ripper. You're trending higher than the Super Bowl. It's out of context, Greg had shouted. She provoked me! Greg, you ripped a diplomatic passport. Do you know what the penalty is for destroying government property? Up to 3 years. And that's before they get to the assault charges and the civil rights stuff. I can't handle this. You need a federal criminal defense attorney, and you need about 50 grand for a retainer. 50 grand? I don't have that. I have a mortgage. I have a boat. Sell the boat, Greg. I'm sorry. I can't touch this. Mitch had hung up. Now Greg was alone. He sat on the metal bench, his mind racing. He needed leverage. He needed a card to play. The logs, he thought. I know about the pencil whipping. I know about the pressure from corporate to ignore the tire wear limits. If I go down, I'm taking them all with me. The heavy steel door buzzed and clicked open. A man in a sharp suit walked in, carrying a briefcase. He wasn't a public defender. He looked expensive. Mr. Patterson, the man said smoothly. My name is Arthur Vanderlei. I represent the legal interests of Summit Airways. Greg scrambled up. Thank God. Linda sent you. You guys are going to get me out, right? It was a mistake. I was protecting the brand. Vanderlei didn't smile. He didn't offer a hand. He sat down on the folding chair on the other side of the glass partition. Mr. Patterson, I am here to inform you that effective 2 p.m. today, your employment with Summit Airways has been terminated for cause. Greg froze. Terminated? You can't fire me. I know where the bodies are buried. I know about the maintenance logs. I know about the pressure to clear the error codes. Vanderlei's expression didn't change, but his eyes went cold. Mr. Patterson, are you suggesting that you participated in illegal activities during your tenure? Because if you are, that sounds like a confession. Summit Airways maintains the highest standards of safety. If you, as a rogue employee, violated those standards, that is entirely on you. Rogue employee, Greg sputtered. Linda told me to do it. The VP told us to keep the numbers up. Do you have that in writing? Vanderlei asked. Do you have an email? A memo? Greg stammered. No. It was verbal. It was always verbal. Get it done, Greg. Make it happen, Greg. Hearsay, Vanderlei said, standing up. We are cooperating fully with the FAA investigation, led by Dr. Sterling. We will be handing over all your personnel files, which I understand are rife with complaints of aggression and misconduct. You are the cancer, Mr. Patterson, and we are cutting you out to save the patient. You're scapegoating me! Greg screamed, slamming his fist against the glass. We are clarifying the narrative, Vanderlei corrected. You are not a Summit Airways employee anymore. You are just a man who assaulted a federal officer. Good luck with your defense. Vanderlei turned and walked out. Greg slid down the glass wall until he hit the floor. He realized then the true nature of the corporate machine he had served so faithfully. It didn't care about him. It didn't care about his loyalty. He was just a cog, and a broken cog gets replaced. By morning, the footage of Greg ripping the passport had mutated from a viral clip into a national indictment. The hashtag #HorrorPassportRipper trended globally, but the real devastation was happening on the tarmac. At 4:00 a.m., the FAA GO team descended on DFW like locusts. Led by Naya, freshly equipped with a replacement diplomatic passport, they seized logbooks and downloaded flight data. Beneath the nose gear of a Boeing 737, Naya found the smoking gun, silver duct tape covering a critical pressure sensor. Greg's efficiency was actually a death trap. 2 days later, Greg faced the music at the Dallas County Courthouse. The arrogance was gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit and the hollow look of a man who realized he was the fall guy. Summit Airways had publicly terminated him, labeling him a rogue actor. The judge, unimpressed by the defense's pleas, set bail at a staggering $250,000. When Greg looked to the gallery for support, he found only the faces of passengers he'd tormented over the years, watching his downfall with grim satisfaction. The Nigerian businessman he had harassed months prior was in the front row, offering a small, silent wave of goodbye. But the final blow landed in a quiet deposition room. Nia slid a folder across the table to Summit's sweating CEO. It contained Greg's CYA, cover-your-ass files, emails proving executives had ordered the maintenance fraud. "Greg is talking," Nia revealed, her voice ice-cold. "He's trading testimony for a lighter sentence." She laid out her terms: a $45 million fine, the grounding of the fleet, and a scholarship fund for minority aviation students. The CEO, staring at the evidence of his own complicity, crumbled. Greg Patterson was going to prison, but thanks to Nia's maneuvering, he was taking the whole corrupt kingdom down with him. 6 months later, the ecosystem of Terminal C had healed. But for Greg Patterson, the wound was permanent. He stood in line at a budget airline gate in Houston, holding a crumpled boarding pass for Group 9. Basic economy. No carry-on allowed. Middle seat. He was flying to Washington, D.I., not as a king, but as a witness. Part of his plea deal involved testifying against Linda Holloway and the Summit Airways executives who had orchestrated the maintenance fraud. Greg wore a cheap suit that didn't fit right. He had lost 20 pounds, but it was from stress, not the gym. He had lost his pension. He had lost his boat. He was currently working night shifts at a warehouse, packing boxes where no one cared about his authority. "Sir, you!" Greg flinched. The voice was sharp, piercing. He looked up to see a gate agent, young, tired, and overworked, glaring at him. "Me?" Greg pointed to himself, a ghost of his former arrogance flickering and dying. "Yes, you. Your personal item is too big," the agent snapped. "It needs to fit in the sizer. If it doesn't, it's $100 at the gate." It's just a duffel bag," Greg pleaded, feeling a sickening sense of déjà vu. "Please, I'm just going to court." "I don't care where you're going. Rules are rules. Test it or step out of line." Greg stepped out of line. He shoved his bag into the metal cage. It got stuck. He had to kick it. The passengers behind him sighed loudly. One of them, a teenager in a hoodie, held up a phone to record him. Greg turned away, hiding his face. He looked up at the terminal monitor overhead. CNN was playing a midday segment. The headline read, "Cleaner Skies. FAA announces record fines." On the screen was Dr. Nia Sterling. She stood at a podium, flanked by the Secretary of Transportation. She wasn't wearing leggings today. She wore a sharp navy blazer, looking every inch the federal hammer she was. "We are sending a message." Nia's voice rang out through the terminal speakers, echoing over Greg's head. "Aviation safety is not negotiable. Dignity is not negotiable. Whether you are a CEO or a passenger, in seat 34B, the rules apply to everyone." The reporter asked a question. "Dr. Sterling, any words for the whistleblowers?" Nia looked directly into the camera. A small, knowing smile played on her lips. "Karma has a way of sorting the baggage, doesn't it?" Greg felt a chill run down his spine. He paid the $100. He grabbed his receipt. Then, with his head down, he shuffled onto the plane, walking past first class without making eye contact, all the way back to row 34, seat B. Greg Patterson learned the hard way that power is a privilege, not a right. He spent 15 years judging people by their clothes, assuming that a hoodie meant threat and a suit meant respect. He didn't realize that in the modern world, authority doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it wears leggings and beats headphones. Nia Sterling didn't just win a lawsuit, she dismantled a corrupt culture. She proved that one person, armed with the truth And a cell phone video can bring down a billion-dollar corporation. Summit Airways was forced to overhaul its entire operation, making the skies safer for millions of people. And Greg? He lives his life in the basic economy lane, Sal, forever looking over his shoulder, wondering if the person he's judging is actually the one holding the gavel. It's a stark reminder to treat everyone with respect, because you never know who you're really talking to. Wow, what a journey. That was the story of the gate agent who messed with the wrong FAA inspector. If your heart was racing when he ripped that passport, hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel. What would you have done if you were in Noah's shoes? Would you have stayed that calm? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this about instant karma and justice served, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and fly safe.